All right, Morgan Hook, what do you think? Governor Hochul saying she's endorsing Zohran Mamdani after a lot of people have been wondering if, when, or how it would happen. She does it via New York Times op-ed. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that these days endorsements, frankly, don't count for very much. I don't think too many voters are going to be swayed one way or another by Kathy Hochul endorsing anybody in the New York City mayor's race. Just like I don't think Elise Stefanik endorsing Curtis Lee was mattering. I don't think that Donald Trump endorsing Andrew Cuomo moves too many voters. So I think this is an insider game. I think in the insider game, it might have an impact, and there's some internal party politics that matter on all of those endorsements, but that's part of a different discussion.
Yeah, I guess endorsement in weighing, I get the title of it is one thing, but support and ideas are another. I mean, are they? I guess I should ask. Is support and saying, well, I align with him on this, because then it becomes actual policy, right? At some point where these things could actually happen, right?
Well, so Kathy Hochul has been signaling basically since the moment that Zohran Mamdani won the primary that she intends to be a counterbalance to his more leftist policies. Now, what that means remains to be seen. I think in a lot of ways, these two have been talking about the same thing for a long time, which is basically affordability, trying to make New York more affordable. That's something that Kathy Hochul's been talking about for 3 years. I think the politics of this, though, are a little different. And that is that Kathy Hochul is the head of the Democratic Party in New York State. And if she wants to be the head and if she wants to lead the Democratic Party in New York State, it makes sense for her to endorse the Democratic nominee for the largest city in the state that represents almost half the population of the state. So I think it's less about her embracing those policies or embracing everything that Zohran Mamdani stands for. It's more about being the leader of the party and trying to have a big tent.
Should she call on Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to do the same, whether that's an endorsement or just throw their support behind Mamdani in the same way?
Well, again, my kind of opinion on this is that I think endorsements don't mean a whole lot. I do think, though, that when you don't endorse, that creates a story. And so at this point, when you've got leaders of the Democratic Party in New York State who have not endorsed Zohran Mamdani, that continues the story and it continues people asking. I mean, here's the thing. Here's why Democrats have been reluctant to endorse him because they're afraid they're going to be attacked by Republicans for endorsing, all of the boogeyman things that they say about Zohran Mamdani. They're getting attacked for those things anyway. Elise Stefanik didn't wait for Kathy Hochul to endorse Zohran Mamdani before she started attacking her. And by the way, this is what Republicans always do. They attack Republicans for supporting Hillary Clinton, for supporting Nancy Pelosi, for supporting Bill de Blasio. Whether those Democrats supported them or not, Republicans attacked them for it. So it really doesn't matter if you actually endorse the guy or not. The fact that he is the Democratic nominee in New York City, Democrats all over the country, frankly, are going to be attacked by Republicans.
Do you think you mentioned that you don't believe that voters really care about endorsements at the end of the day? Do
Yeah.
you think that having a party they though can align with and be unified does matter? So that way when they go to the ballot, they're like, yes, like this is something that they're all on the same page and I can be on that same. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
instead of having a voter be like, well, the governor didn't endorse him, but like trying to decide does it make it more clear at the end to what the party stands for?
I think what it, I think being aligned on policy can be important, or even really just sort of messaging can be important. Is what does your party stand for? Does it stand for affordability? Does it stand for making cost of living more acceptable in New York State? If those are the things that all of the elected officials inside your party and the sort of elites inside your party, if they are all behind the same message, I do think that makes a difference because then that's what voters hear. But an actual endorsement, I mean, does anyone remember who endorsed Andrew Cuomo in the primary? No, because all of those people switched over and are now endorsing Zohran Mamdani. So it didn't make a difference in the primary. I don't think it makes a big difference in terms of voters in a general election. But again, to your point, I think messaging wise and sort of what a party stands for, that's where it can make a difference.
What's it mean when the governor, or we've heard Chuck Schumer say at Hakeem Jeffries, when they've had conversations with this person, with someone they haven't talked to? Like, can you take us inside the room? Is there like, do they sit down like we are? Do they like hop up and like, hey, is your Zoom on? Or like, what does that look like?
I can't take you inside the room, to be perfectly honest. I've never been part of those conversations. But what I would imagine is that there is, what we do know is that at times, and this is true of both political parties, there is some deal making. There is, all right, well, you give me this endorsement and I'm going to give you this, or you have to go out publicly and say X before I come out publicly and say I'm supporting you. So that kind of horse trading absolutely happens, I would say, inside of those. I'm not saying every time, but I am aware of instances when that's the negotiation that's taking place.
Right, because I think people hear like how many conversations with Zohran Mamdani does it take for you to be like, hey, yeah, he's the guy, right? I guess because like what it's going to change in those three talks you have.
I think it is pretty obvious that the reluctance on the part of mainstream Democrats and sort of institutional Democrats is that they are worried about being attacked by Republicans and being lumped in with Zohran Mamdani. My personal opinion, again, is that that is going to happen anyway. And you can do what Kathy Hochul did yesterday, which is I'm going to support him because I support New York. There are places that we disagree and there are places that we agree. You can put out a nuanced argument like that, but let's be real. In politics, nuance doesn't play very often. Like I've been saying, you're going to get attacked for supporting the guy, whether you support him or not. You might as well get aligned and fire up your base.
And you talk about a base, does depending on what happens in November, which a lot of the polling showing that he is likely to win. We don't really know for sure, but the youth vote, as he's been able to sort of engage that population, do you see it all carrying over to the midterms across the state beyond just New York City
No,
with any alignment in policy in mind?
so I might differ a little bit from other Democrats in this regard. I think Zohran Mamdani is more or less an isolated New York City thing. I also think that his primary victory was more a rejection of Andrew Cuomo than it was an affirmation of Zohran Mamdani, which is not to say that he is not a talented politician. He is, and he was very good on the stump, and I do think that he gets people excited. But from the other evidence that I've seen in other races around the state, even, the one big outlier in the New York City election compared to other cities in New York State was that Andrew Cuomo was in the primary and people rejected him rather than sort of flocking to Zohran. I really don't want that guy, and this is the alternative. But does he make people excited? Clearly he does. And he turned out people that they didn't expect to turn out in New York City. Do I think that that translates across the nation for midterms? No, I think that that's a New York City thing.
So you don't think like Sean Ryan can go make an Instagram video of him walking around Buffalo and do the same? You know what I mean? It's more of a personality based thought rather than
I think that if you are someone who is running for office, that you should play to your strengths and you should be your own authentic self. And what we saw from Zohran Mamdani was his own authentic self. And if you're Sean Ryan in Buffalo, and by the way, Sean Ryan might be great at TikTok videos. I don't
right.
know.
It was
If he,
hypothetical. Yeah.
if he is great at TikTok videos, he should go do them. But what I don't think is that, and what I don't think that the primary signified was that every Democrat now should go run a Zohran Mamdani campaign. I think that's silly. That every election is different, every constituent base is different, every district is different. You have to run to appeal to the voters who are in your district, who the people who are voting for you. And Zohran Mamdani did that in New York City in a Democratic primary.
Finally, and the bit of this is about Kathy Hochul as the one who did endorse Mamdani.
Sure.
Where have you seen from her? Obviously, we've seen Gavin Newsom take quite the stance, if you will, and sort of negotiate what's going on with Donald Trump in his own way. Do you see the governor at all? You mentioned the identity. Have you seen the governor creating an identity through some of this with Donald Trump, and now obviously Elise Stefanik thrown into that?
So I think the governor has very clearly been trying to create an identity for herself. And kind of like what I just said about leaning into your strengths, I think what the governor more than anything has been trying to do, and really this goes back well before primary earlier this year. This is something she's been doing for a number of years now. She wants to talk about her roots. She wants to talk about she is a blue collar, Western New York, first, not only the first woman to be governor of New York State, the first mom, the first grandma, someone who truly understands what it's like to be worried about your next paycheck, to be able to decide between diapers and food for your kids. Like this is a life that she has actually lived. And I think we've seen her over the last couple of years get more and more comfortable talking about herself in that kind of language. And so I think this endorsement, you could say it's part of that, and you could say that sort of nuanced argument that she made in the New York Times is part of that because she did harken back to all of those things. But I don't think what we see here, we're not seeing her shift and become something else. And we're not seeing her do the thing that everyone's talking about. Oh, should all Democrats be more like Zohran? I don't see her doing that here with this endorsement. I think what she's doing is continuing with the line of messaging that she's been adopting here in the last couple of years and fitting Zohran into that.
Has Gavin Newsom done that then? I'm trying to read between the lines of what you're saying.
No, I no, actually, no, I wasn't thinking of Gavin
Okay,
Newsom at
okay. I
all.
didn't know if
No,
you were saying he's become something else, which he has, but that
he
just maybe
has
he's
no.
expanding upon what he'd already built. I'm
I
trying
feel
to.
like Gavin Newsom has leaned into his own authenticness, which is kind of being a jerk online and giving Trump a taste of his own medicine and his sort of adopting this Trumpian online persona. But I think also, frankly, all Democrats, and I've said this before, I think a lot of Democrats have sort of reevaluated how do you deal with Donald Trump in this second administration. And they're taking a more pragmatic approach to it. The first time Trump was in office, it was all very much we're going to fight everything he does. We're going to protest in the street every weekend. And this time it's like, I'm going to see what I can get. And if Donald Trump wants to pay for a new Penn Station, yeah, I'm going to let him. And if he's going to send ICE raids into Utica and into Manhattan, then I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say no to that. But shoot, if he wants to pay for infrastructure, if he wants to give me money from the feds, I'll take it. Like, why would I say no? So I think and that's been the case, I think, for a lot of Democrats, particularly governors around the country.
Morgan, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.